Welcome to the Erasmus Foundation podcast. My name is Paul Nugent. Are you looking for answers to life and its meaning? Then this may well be the very podcast you need to listen to. In a series of podcasts, we are going to look at the difficult questions of life and apply spiritual knowledge to find out the answers. Hello. Today, we're going to talk about numbers, actually. The numbers 5, 7, and 13, which apparently have significance. So, to talk to us about this is Padina from Spirit. Greetings, Padina.
And greetings to you.
Well, let's start with the first number, Padina, because, people might be puzzled about why numbers are so significant. So let's start with, what is number 5 and what is it exactly as far as spiritual terms are concerned?
Well, may I just say, and we shall talk on this, the other numbers, but being positive, I want to say that 7, which is recognized by many people, is a very good number and has a lot of very, very good positive associations. But it may not be realized by everyone. But number 5 has quite evil associations. Now, of course, all these things exist in nature in a very positive fashion. You might see 5 petals on a flower very often, and of course, that does not make that flower evil. Of course not. It is simply the structure of the flower as designed by the great mind. But 5 does have some significance to those who are working in darkness, in evil. Perhaps working as witches, using witchcraft, or satanic behavior as well. And 5 has always been there in this association, represented by satanic groups and covens with the shape of the symbol of the pentagram, the pentangle, 5-pointed star. And those working in darkness, the dark forces, the black forces working in evil, they use power. Power is all that feeds them. It is absolute. What they need, what they represent, what they use, it is power. And they seek power. Those working in the light, in the white light, working for good, use strength, which is within all people and is innate. It is yours by right. You have earned so much strength according to your spiritual evolvement and development, your spiritual age. That is yours by right, and no one may take this away from you. It is yours. But power is something different. It is awarded to you, or it is offered to you for you to use, particularly if you are working in darkness and following that path. You would be offered power. It would be given to you immediately, but then, of course, it might be taken away immediately. But that is another story. So that is the significance of the number 5. And I suppose symbolically, of course, particularly for a person living on the earth, symbolically, one would always choose 7 as opposed to 5, if you are working in light, of course. But it is very significant that a 5-pointed star is used by many of the greater powers of nations across your earth.
Thank you, Bedina. Now, it's interesting. We've talked about numbers 5 and 7, and a lot of people will think, well, they're just numbers. How can they have some significance by using them? Could you give us some idea of why numbers like this are significant?
Yes. Because thought is the most powerful force that exists within all of the universe. Thought. It is most powerful. And the association symbolically of the meaning of the number 5 and the number 7, because one might be using thought in any practical situation, any situation, that association of those numbers are significant. Some people do believe numerology is very significant in the world, and you might call it superstition, whatever you wish, but it does have a relevance and it does have an importance. Simple shapes, as I mentioned, of a flower having 5 petals is really of no significance at all. It's very natural and should be of no concern to anyone because number 5 is there. But in some relationships between objects, symbols, meanings, suggested symbolism, all of this carries significant meaning and therefore can invoke thought and have some impressment in people's minds.
So it is really the thought behind it that is the significance in conjunction with these numbers.
Yes.
And so is it possible, if you're working in light as we are, to use the number 5 at all in any way? Or is that a negative thing to do?
Well, no, of course. There are times where, of course, in your everyday, for instance, you have a £5 note in your currency, and that should not have any meaning or any bad thought related to it in any way. And of course, you are using these numbers in many, many different forms. But as a 5-pointed star, where that might be used, I would suggest initially one would question the meaning of that and how it is being used. And possibly what I am trying to say to the audience listening to this recording is it is simply something that mankind should be aware of, not make any substantial difference within people's lives. No, of course not. But just to have an awareness of the symbolic meaning of numbers and how sometimes they may be used.
In a way, what we're talking about here is that the symbol almost amplifies the thought behind it.
Yes, but very simply. A number is simply a number and perhaps means nothing. But where it is being used symbolically, then that could have some impact upon people and could have some very strong meaning.
Now, we've got 5 and 7, and the other number we were considering is 13. So,
Mhm.
what's the significance of 13, Bettina?
Well, 13 has always been regarded as an unlucky number. And perhaps because of its association with, again, where we are talking of a coven or satanic groups, a coven contains 12 members and a high priest, making 13. Now, a coven must contain 13, no less, no more. And this is always so. That is really the significance of the number 13. It has this dark association, of course, and this is why has always been considered an unlucky number and a number which could promote misfortune, and that is its reasoning. But I would say, more importantly, that 5, if it is used malevolently, then it is stronger. It has more meaning. It has more power if it is used for that purpose.
What about the Last Supper, Bettina? Was there 13 people involved in that?
Well, again, who is to say? Perhaps there were more people attending that supper. But when the Roman Catholic Church came into being, because in its beginnings, the meaning of 13 in a group like this was of great meaning. Perhaps they invented that there were 12 disciples with one master, one priest, Yeshua. Now, I would suggest to you that there were more than just 13, but that is how traditionally the Church of your world has laid this down as the rule. But very significantly, and this I can assure you, that the 12 disciples in your Christianity were men. And I can assure you very simply and very accurately that there were also women. Of course there were. Why shouldn't there have been? And Mary Magdalene was also a very important part of all this. But that is not recognized by your churches in your religion of Christianity.
Indeed, very interesting, Medina. Perhaps we could do a subject on this. It sounds very interesting indeed. So now we've looked at these three particular numbers. How would we best use them in our daily life, or should we just avoid them?
Well, again, for the sake of normal everyday use, one should not consider these in any particular fashion more importantly than any other. Exactly in the same way as in some other cultures within your world, other numbers have significant meaning as well. I believe the number 8 in Japanese is related or symbolic of death. So people are wary how to use that number at times. But these things, you can regard them as superstition if you wish. And they should not be of any particular significance in your daily life. But as I said before, I would just wish people to have an awareness that certain numbers do have certain meanings associated with them. I also want to say and talk about 7, because that is a significant number, and perhaps the most important one we should consider, that there are 7 days of the week, and 7 comes up in many, many ways. Many ways. Importantly,
I'm thinking really, Bedina, about Friday the 13th, which is really very much a superstition. But what I was saying, or I was thinking, was that if you apply thought to a day and your thoughts are negative because you're concerned for this mythical number, could that have effect on your day because of that?
I think it could, yes. This is why I emphasize that one should not be over concerned about these numbers in the everyday business that you all leading your lives. But just have that awareness is good. But yes, because thought is so strong, it could influence your day and cause quite a mishap or misfortune to work through your day with that negativity at the back of your mind. I think that could be very damaging and potentially, possibly even dangerous. So I would not wish people to take that too seriously into their day.
That's very good, Bedina. Now, that's interesting in itself because you gave a talk on one of our podcasts a little while back on negativity and positivity, and really that is the significance, isn't it? The positivity and the negativity and how they can affect our lives.
Indeed, indeed.
Thank you. So how was this used if in a historical setting, Bettina, the numbers 5, 7, and 13?
Well, it has always been there. It has always been throughout history. Those numbers have had significance. They've had meaning. As long as there has been evil, the number 5, and when there have been always been covens of witchcraft and satanic practice, the number 13 has always been significant. So that has been used throughout history and continues to be. And of course, number 7 has always been symbolic of good. It is always being considered in your times as lucky 7, as a lucky number, as opposed to the unlucky significance of 13. But 7 has always been a lucky number, and so it should remain so.
Thank you, Bettina. Now, you have brought this subject to our notice because you obviously think it has some significance. So, would you like to say anything about why you felt it important to tell us about this?
I just wish people to think a little bit more about this and how it is used symbolically across your world. And particularly with the 5-pointed star, which is used symbolically in so many different ways. Where I mentioned about the focus of power within the forces of darkness, and then consider how 5-pointed stars are used in military symbolism across your world, and flags of power, symbols of power, used by the most powerful nations within your world, all use a 5-pointed star. So why is this? Why is that used? Would it not be better if these symbols were 7-pointed stars?
The Erasmus Foundation is a spiritual teaching and healing foundation based in Laxfield, Suffolk, in the United Kingdom. We have a webpage, www.erasmus-foundation.org. If you would like to be a guest on our podcast, or indeed have further questions for us, then please contact me on paul@erasmus-foundation.org, and we'll do our best to accommodate you. Thank you very much for listening.